P-3 is going to be the hardest Ultrakill level by far. What Prime Soul will be contained in this maximum security prison, guarded by tens, if not hundreds of tough enemies? Well, I'll tell you in this definitive P-3 predictions video. So before we go over what boss is going to be the Prime Soul of P-3, I want to talk about the design of this Prime Sanctum. The design is obviously going to be similar to whatever Layer 9 Treachery looks like, as shown in all the past Prime Sanctums. Each Prime Sanctum reflects the design of the last layer of their respective acts. P-1 is the same design as Gluttony, containing bony and fleshy structures, and P-2 is the same design as Heresy, containing large structures and buildings coated in a red and black shade. So as I said in my Treachery predictions video, I think Layer 9 will be a sort of icy wasteland, coated in an infinite snowfall. So obviously P-3 is going to follow suit. But I think it would be kind of cool if the ice was pink or purple. I don't know why, but pink or purple ice crystals covered in snow would be a cool look for P-3. I feel like the boss in P-3 is going to be held in another flesh prison, keeping with the theme of the past two. And I'd imagine it to be shaped like a tetrahedron or a pyramid or something like that. Also, one last thing before we go over the possible bosses, I want to talk about the lead up to that boss fight. Will it be another ultra difficult enemy gauntlet like P-2, or will it just be another cinematic build up to the boss like in P-1? So, with the ultra difficult enemy gauntlet, it would obviously need to be much harder than P-2, which honestly terrifies me. I also think it would be a much longer gauntlet with hundreds of more enemies, because after all, Hakita loves making Prime Sanctums extremely difficult with the thought process of, that would be funny. Then there also could be a cinematic lead-up, perhaps a stroll or parkour segment through ice and snow, the music getting louder and louder the further you progress until you get to a massive door that opens up to the hardest boss of the game, which is going to be... well, there's like a lot of possible bosses for P-3, so I'm just going to go over all the predicted bosses and which one I think will be the most likely to reside in P-3. First, I'm going to cover the stupidest theories I've heard yet. Yes, they're somehow stupider than my Layer 8 and Layer 9 theories. Okay, so for some reason, some people are thinking that V2 is going to turn into a Prime Soul, but like, he's a machine. Machines can't even turn into Prime Souls. So I have absolutely no clue what they are thinking. Plus, he's been absolutely minced to pieces, so yeah, no chance. Another one of the stupidest boss predictions I've heard yet is Gabriel Prime. I'm not even going to explain why this is stupid. The next boss on the list isn't exactly a stupid theory. It's just that I highly doubt Hakita would make this boss a Prime Soul. Lucifer Prime. He, as the boss of P-3, is one of the theories that a good portion of people have had. He might fight sort of like a quicker version of Gabriel, an aerial enemy that throws spears and attacks with swords or some kind of blade. Lucifer Prime would be a cool idea, but Hakita has stated before that you will never at any point fight Lucifer in Ultrakill. So we move to the next possible boss. Judas Prime. Judas Iscariot was one of the 12 apostles, the chief disciples of Jesus Christ. He is known for betraying Jesus by disclosing his location for a measly 30 pieces of silver. Judas brought a group of men to arrest Jesus. Then, when he was found, Jesus was tried and executed by crucifixion. Judas later felt guilty for his actions and committed suicide by hanging. Now, as for the design of this boss fight, I feel like he would be very nimble and small, like V2. He would have quick ranged attacks, and maybe would summon smaller mini-bosses throughout the fight. As Judas is a coward, he'd want to stay away from you at all times. For the hardest boss in the game, the man who caused Jesus' death might be a good pick. I feel like the next possible boss could be Cassius Prime. Cassius was a Roman general and senator, best known as the man who plotted Julius Caesar's assassination. However, an interesting coincidence arises. There's another P-3 boss that a lot of people have been theorizing about, Brutus Prime. Now, what's interesting about Brutus is that he was Cassius's brother-in-law, and he was the man who assassinated Caesar by stabbing. He was in on the conspiracy instigated by Cassius, as they were both responsible for the murder of Julius Caesar. Now, I think something cool you could do with these two bosses is that you could make a double boss fight, similar to Agony and Tundra, except for Prime Souls. Imagine how cool and how hard it would be to fight two Prime Souls at the same time. Cassius would be small and nimble like Minos, and Brutus would be like Sisyphus, strong and fast. Now, that would instantly make P-3 harder than any past Prime Sanctum. Now, going back to Christianity lore, Jesus Christ might be a candidate for P-3. But I just have a feeling deep down that Jesus Prime is probably not going to exist. I feel like this would be too cliche, much like how Lucifer would be too cliche. Oh, by the way, I just want to quickly ask you to subscribe to the channel so I can beat Hakita in subs. We're trying to get to at least 100,000 subs by the end of the year, so if you guys can help me achieve that, I'd be extremely happy. Anyway, then there's Midas Prime. Midas, in Greek and Roman mythology, a king of Phrygia, was known for his foolishness and greed. Now, I'm sure you've heard the story of Midas's golden touch. To reward Midas for helping his friend, Dionysus offered him a choice of whatever reward he wished for. Midas asked that whatever he touched should be turned into gold. Midas was ecstatic with his new power, which he quickly put to the test. In happiness, Midas hugged his daughter, forgetting what his newfound power actually did, and she too turned into gold. Apparently, Midas died of starvation. Since his touch turned everything into gold, it would be impossible for him to eat food. I feel like in a boss fight with Midas, he would try to kill you by throwing bits and pieces of gold at you, or summoning golden enemies that are faster and do more damage. Midas would be an interesting choice for the P-3 boss. The next possible boss for P-3 I've heard about is Lilith Prime. Lilith is an important woman in Mesopotamian and Jewish mythology, theorized to be the first wife of Adam and a primordial she-demon. Lilith was apparently banished from the Garden of Eden for not obeying and complying with Adam's requests. Lilith attempted to have intercourse with Adam before the creation of Eve, and after the creation of Eve, she fled. She died because Michael, one of the archangels, smites Lilith, who vanishes in a flash of white light. It would be pretty cool to see a female character in Ultrakill, especially as the boss of P-3. I feel like she'd also play similar to Gabriel, a flying demon that uses a mix of ranged and melee combat to kill the player. Odysseus Prime isn't as popular of a theory for the P-3 Prime Soul, but I think it could still be a possibility. Odysseus was a Greek hero known for his intellect and cunning. He created the plan to invade the city of Troy using a giant hollow horse. Odysseus was also well known for his long journey trying to return home after the Trojan War. Odysseus' son, Telegonus, from his mother's command, set out to find his father. Landing on the coast of Ithaca, he began to explore the fields, but Odysseus came out armed against him. Telegonus did not recognize his father and used a spear that had a venomous stingray spine to kill him. I feel like Odysseus would fight with a lot of ranged attacks and would try to stay away from the player as much as possible. Now, this is the final theory people have had, and honestly is the boss I think will be the P-3 candidate. Prometheus Prime. Prometheus was one of the titans in Greek religion, the supreme trickster, and one of the gods of fire. He developed into a master craftsman, and in this connection, he was associated with fire and the creation of mortals. Prometheus is best known for defying the Olympian gods by stealing fire from them and giving it to humanity in the form of technology, knowledge, and more generally civilization. Zeus was outraged by Prometheus's theft of fire, and so gave him an eternal punishment. He chained him to a rock, and Zeus sent an eagle to eat Prometheus's liver. I feel like he would be a large boss, as he is a titan after all, and would have extremely heavy melee attacks, much like Sisyphus Prime, that would deal an extreme amount of damage to the player. He might even use the eagle that was eating his liver as a ranged attack. That would be interesting. Oh, by the way, if you were wondering what the lore entry for the Minotaur and the Terminal tells us about the possible P-3 boss, I have no clue. The person who created the bull and gave it to Minos was Poseidon, so I don't really get how that would make sense with the terminal entry. 10 letters separated by a space after the 4th is censored, but I don't know what would even fit in that character count. I'm guessing that these 10 characters are completely irrelevant to whatever's going to be the boss in P-3. But I guess we'll see when P-3 comes out. P-3 is definitely going to change Ultrakill forever, being the new most ultra difficult level. I'm extremely excited to see what Hakita does with it. Anyway, jokes aside, the P-3 boss is 100% definitely going to be Optimus Prime.